Today's guest is someone who doesn't just talk mindset, she lives it. Heather Hakes is a powerhouse in personal development, helping people break through mental blocks and rewire their thinking to create a life they love. She's a speaker, a coach, and a host of the Mind Over Matter podcast. I've been following her for quite some time now, and let me tell you, she's the real deal. If you're ready to stop running on autopilot and start living with purpose, you're going to love this episode. So let's dive in. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We are back with another episode of 10,000 Miles, and today I have the pleasure of having an amazing guest on today. One might think I stalked her into coming on because I randomly reached out, but it was after weeks and weeks and weeks of reading her content, understanding, sort of trying to get my sense of where she comes from, what message she has. Today's topic is all about shifting your mindset and focus to gearing towards success and sort of demystifying all the belief structures and beliefs that people think they have, which is the normal path to success. Heather, welcome to 10,000 Miles today. How are you?
Vic, thank you so much for having me. It's so fun being on the other side of podcasting.
Well, I'm excited to give you that opportunity today. I know you've done hundreds of these. And so thank you for being my guest today. It's greatly appreciated. Heather, why don't you introduce yourself to the 10,000 Miles audience?
Oh gosh, elevator pitch. I really, where I come from is I have like this inner rebellion, this fire, this passion inside of me. And I did what we're conditioned to do. I went to college, I got a degree, I got another one, I climbed the corporate ladder, and I wasn't happy and I wasn't fulfilled, which sent me deep down the rabbit hole of like, how do I create a better reality? So what I do, I'm based in Denver, but I am a mindset and identity coach. I help people get unstuck and create a life worth living, a life you can't wait to wake up to.
Man, that is a tall order and a tall task. Where did this all start? Like, how did your interest in these topics and you matching your desire to do it and the need for it, where did that all begin?
Truly, I started into more or less personal development when I was in elementary school. I grew up watching Oprah. I remember when I was 8, I started a nightly gratitude journal. Then I watched Dr. Phil, learning about psychology and human potential. And then I got into reading the books as an early teen. So I've always been interested in human potential and psychology and like, how do I do things easier and faster and better, right? Learn from those ahead of me. But really, I'd say what knee-jerk reacted me into it with no choice. I got to 30. I had everything that was supposed to make me happy. I had a great career and the guy, and I got the ring, and we just moved into a house, and I wasn't happy.
Wow.
And I ended up walking away from all of it.
Okay.
And went on my own self-proclaimed eat, pray, love journey. But that's like when I really deep dived, what am I doing with my life? So it happened for me at 30. I think we talk about midlife crisis. A lot of it happens at 40, 50. Like, what am I doing? Mine happened at 30.
You're very fortunate that it happened then. Because there's a huge amount of runway left for self-correction, exploration, and the journey there. I have lots of friends and colleagues that are twice that age of 30 that are still trying to figure it out. As a matter of fact, I had a call with an associate this morning who was looking for his next opportunity. He's in his early 60s and was calling me for a little pregame. You know, he's got an interview this afternoon. He's like, "Hey, will you run reps with me?" You know, so I was I'm like, the whole thing I do is I'm like, I want to understand your elevator pitch and your compelling story. Like, what is it that you're going to tell them? If you had 3 minutes to engage them, or even 30 seconds, what is it you're going to say that's going to make them lean in a little bit and really be interested in you? So again, a person in their early 60s really finding out and sort of trying to define for themselves, what is it that's going to make me happy? And so congratulations to you to figure out in 30. What was it that you people say, I'm not happy. I walked away from all of it, as you did. Did you know what it was that you weren't happy about? Were you running to something? Were you running from something? What did that evolution look like? That's a big statement. Help me unpack that a little bit.
One word.
Okay.
Autopilot. I was stuck in autopilot. And I remember in my 20s complaining to my parents, I feel like I'm going through the motions. I feel like a hamster on a wheel. So I kept, obtaining the things, more money and travel and that external stuff, but I continued on that hamster wheel. And so for me, it got to the point of I would wake up every morning, hit the snooze button 2 to 3 times, roll out of bed, go through life's motions, dread Monday, cheer on Friday, week in and week out. And what really hit me was, is this all there is? There's got to be more. There's got to be a better way. And that's when I started really seeking, my first coaching programs and then my first one-on-one coach and kind of just, what do I do from here?
No, you raised something interesting, and over the years, I've called it, can you pass the Sunday test?
Oh.
And the Sunday test is simply because I live this. All the things you're about to talk about, I am incredibly guilty of, but have moved on from, fortunately, through conversations like this and my own self-exploration. But the Sunday test is this. Because you mentioned it, you grind, you're on the hamster wheel, you race to Friday, and Friday at 4:00 comes around, you see the end, and you're like, oh, I can't even believe it. I made it. And you relax a little bit. Maybe that night you're unwinding. Saturday's your day. Okay. It's like self-care, gym, beauty, time for family and friend. Like you're jamming all this stuff in. And the Sunday test is this. What happens when you wake up Sunday morning? Are you already starting to pack on the anxiety of what Monday's bringing? If that answer simply is yes, you got a lot of work to do. And it's a simple test. And you have to be honest with yourself. And I have lots of friends, husbands and wives and whatnot, that all fail the Sunday test. But yet they didn't have the courage you had at 30 to say, I got to do something about that. How do you help people recognize where they are and, more importantly, get out of it?
I don't think I help. I intentionally, the stuff I post on social media is to kind of trigger, like to hit, to make you curious, to make you question things, to do some self inquiry. But, on the idea of the Sunday test, I never experienced this, but people talk about the Sunday scaries. If you are buying into the Sunday scaries, you're in one paradigm, and that's just no way of living. I love Sundays. See, now here's a perspective.
Yeah.
But I'm very intentional and mindful, and I do this as a lifestyle. It is not for a living. It is a lifestyle. I love Sundays. I set myself up for the week. I'm excited for I'm excited for a fresh start. And that's the difference. So most people don't create change in their life until it's so bad, right? Until a wake up call, a bankruptcy, a divorce, a health scare, or it just gets so bad you have no choice but to create change in your life. That's where most people create change. Some people create change just because they feel maybe inspired or motivated watching something else, but generally speaking, it's until it gets unbearable.
Yeah. What do you think it is? I know you know a lot about human psychology and you've studied it. What is it about the human psychology that waits for that lever moment versus an early awakening with a smaller plan versus something that requires a catastrophic or potentially massive shift?
Big question. I also believe we're all on our own soul journey. I don't think there's one right way. If there are 8 billion people, there are 8 billion ways and journeys to go about it. But generally speaking, especially in Western culture, we are programmed and conditioned at a very young age. Think about the American dream, how that is sold in neon lights. And it turns out I chased it. It was not
we all
fulfilling.
do.
It wasn't my dream. But anyway, so you have to understand mental programming, which is our subconscious mind. And that creates your belief system and your paradigm and your perception. And most people just fall in line and follow suit. They don't question, and they just do what they're told. But then there's others of us who, like, I don't know, you have this intuitive knowing, this feeling you're meant for more. And those people
Hmm.
are what become leaders and examples for others. Like, oh, if they can do it, so can I. Yes, you can.
Yeah. It's funny. How do you think that's developed? And I'm going to, first of all, I want to tell you why I call it the Sunday test. It's kind of funny, actually. I think I've ever told anybody this on the podcast. I'm a guy from New York. Okay. Grew up, my father's side of the family was Italian. My mother, from England. And, the Italian side was the predominant side. You ever watched the movie A Bronx Tale?
No.
Have you ever seen that movie? A Bronx Tale it's a mafia movie, and it's about a guy named Sonny. And Sonny's like the wisest guy in the neighborhood, meaning not wise this way, but also wise like smart. And he's coaching this kid. His name is C, or Cologio. And he says, hey, when you pick up this girl tonight, you got to give her the door test. And he said, what? No, this is the 60s or 70s. What's the door test, Sonny? He goes, when you walk her to the door, he goes, before you get out of the car, you lock that car door on your side. You go around, you open your door, her door, you let her in. When you walk around the back of the car, peek in the back window, she's not reaching across, unlocking your door before electric, openers. He goes, get rid of her. She's selfish. So we kid around with the door test, right? The girl passed the door test. So I turned it into the Sunday test, like a little homage to the mafia movie.
Vic, I have to tell you, I failed that test once. I was 20 years old, dating this guy, baseball player, super hot, but he had an older car. So this was, I didn't know, right? So there's not knowing and being selfish. I just didn't know. But he
Yeah.
came down, opened my door. I did not lean over. I didn't unlock. I didn't know, right?
Did he call you out on it?
Later on.
You failed, Heather. You failed the door test. I have to say, I get a sense that you didn't fail it because of what's in your soul. You just missed one, right? You missed a layup. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
But so I've always had personally a strong desire to sort of question and want to know what's more and believe somehow that I was capable. But it really hit me when I was 19. I don't know if you know this about me, but I was in the music business. I co-wrote songs with a lot of artists, Alice Cooper being the one of my day that was the biggest one. But I was starting to rub elbows with lots of people who made a lot of money. And then after spending time with them, I realized guy or that girl, they're no different than me. They didn't come from a different place. They're not some virtuoso on an instrument better than I play guitar. I mean, they're great, but like I have those chops, and the why not me instead of why me, the why not me took over. I was probably about 18 or 19. And so from that moment on, I always saw the world of opportunity as I want to see people succeed because that meant it was possible for me as well. Right. I only saw that as, the building blocks for my success or the yellow brick road to my success. Have you run into the why me and the why not me mindset, and how have people sort of navigated that space?
I don't think I really experienced that. It was this inner knowing and curiosity that led me on the personal development. I drank the Tony Robbins Kool-Aid at, I
Yeah.
went to all the events, which is fine,
Same.
but it's very surface level. So like you definitely chase the high, proximity is power, and like you want to be around those high vibe people. But then it's like once you get home, it's very easy to fall back into the old way of being. So I just don't want mediocrity. And so it was this deep drive within me, which I think I truly found through doing endurance feats, this deep
Okay.
drive within me that like I have so much power and potential. How do I experience all that life has to offer? And what I call like getting outside of the boring ass box that we were sold.
Mm-hmm. What's the favorite part about what you do? Like if you could design every single day exactly the way it's going to turn out, and you're engaged with somebody in these topics or working with somebody, what would that look like?
Well, a lot of it's what I currently do, but I
Yeah.
just like I know this stuff works because I've experimented and I've practiced and seen the change in my clients. But really, it's just like helping other people wake up, waking up from autopilot, living life by default, and realizing you can live life by design. What do you? So a lot of people don't know what they want. That's what I've come across, which is mind blowing. Like, how do you not know what you want? Right? That's like going to the airport and you have no idea where you want to go. I know where I want to go. I'm very clear. I have it mapped out. But anyway, in order to stop living by default, going through the motions, same shit, different day, you have to break the cycle. And that's what it's all about. And when you break the cycle and you start being mindful and intentional, building the mindset muscle is what I call, like, you realize the only limitations are self-imposed.
Let's give people an experience.
Okay.
All right. I'll role play with you a little bit here if you don't mind. I'm a brand new client. How would we engage? Like, where would it start? What would we do?
Well, instead of hypotheticals, let's just talk real world.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're driven and ambitious and a high achiever, but I'm willing to bet you're at a point, but I bet you want more, right? You want that next thing. Maybe it's more growth or more opportunity or more money. So give me real world where you're at, but like, what's that next thing? And then let's talk about closing the gap.
Yeah, I am working right now on, like, I have a path for financial, I have a path for my business. The podcast has picked up a lot of creative side and my continuous learning and meeting people and all of that. But I am trying to mentally transition to the what happens 5, 6, 7 years from now, right? How do I stay mentally relevant in how do I stay in the conversation? How do I not become a dinosaur? How do I make sure that I have a voice that's, I don't want to say, I don't want to, like, I'm never going to be youthful forever, but I want to be in the conversation, right? So what is it that I need to do? So the things that I have done and continue to do is expand my outreach, right? Be in more, how do you get in the conversation? Be a part of some more conversations on various topics of all different types. But I still don't have a perfect vision of what that looks like.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm working on that, but I don't have a perfect vision.
I wrote some things down.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
the first step to creating change in your life is always awareness. And this is where I begin with any new client. You have to become aware, but you shared several. So you already have limiting beliefs. I'm going to be irrelevant, right? So that was the first limiting belief I heard. I don't want to become irrelevant. That's what I heard. So number one, and we have to write that down. You have to become aware. What are those thoughts going through our mind on repeat? I don't want to be irrelevant. Age is the thing, blah, blah, blah. So step number two,
Well, let's go back because I'm going to want to volley with you a little bit.
all right.
What if I told you I don't believe it's a limiting belief, but I think it's something everybody could trap themselves into? And if I recognize it up front, that there's an opportunity for me to short circuit that, meaning, because I see people. I had a conversation with two guys in their 70s about AI last weekend.
Sweet.
I mean, boy, they were in fear of the entire universe coming down on them, and I had to basically pull out, the things that have happened over the last 100 years of change and how they have to reimagine the future and not try to see the future for what it is. So, I would tell you, in all fairness, I don't see myself as, I don't have a limiting belief, but I have an understanding of what could potentially happen if you're not taking action and working on a plan with purpose. So does that shift your mindset at all, or what does that do for you?
Not totally, but
okay, good.
And again, this is just a perspective in one lens, right?
Yeah, no, it's good. I want to give people an experience. So if we were really we're really talking about this. So let's have the conversation.
Change is the only constant. So
this is true.
fearing change is kind of, insanity. It's the only constant. I don't fear technology. I actually get excited about it. Like, first of all, technology makes my life a lot easier. So the 70-year-old man is afraid of it. And I'm like, well, how is it going to make my life easier? What's the next best thing?
Exactly.
Again, perspective. The next thing you were talking about, you're thinking, I don't future trip because number one, like the only time is now. If you really want to get into it, the only time is now. But I understand what you're saying, right? You're trying to forecast. I get it. The next thing I would do is I write down evidence. So the first person that came to mind, have you heard of Bob Proctor?
No.
Oh my goodness. So Bob Proctor was huge in the personal development space.
Bob Proctor. Yes, I have heard of Bob Proctor.
So he's all about paradigm shifting. Bob
Yep.
passed a few years ago, and I'm pretty sure late 80s, like 87. He was definitely older, but Bob was relevant and practicing his work right up until he passed. So I would find evidence. Okay, Bob Proctor was still at the top of his game using technology and stuff from his studio, no longer doing those in person. But so that was my point. So become aware of kind of those thoughts and the questions you're having. Find evidence of somebody doing it. Bob Proctor was late 80s, top of his game, still making millions.
Yeah.
And then I know you're a man, so you're very strategy focused. But even more important is like the identity piece. So here's what I mean by that. I remember when I started entrepreneurship, I was all in on strategy, website and messaging. And, like people talk about the 80-20 rule, 80% mindset, 20% strategy or mechanics. But I went all in on strategy, spent thousands of dollars on the external when I had an identity of self-doubt and feeling like an imposter and I was procrastinating. So that belief system and those actions, no matter if I could have the best strategy in the world, the number one personal brand strategist with that identity, I would fail. You cannot out strategize a faulty mindset.
Yeah.
So what I would share with you in that point is, if future trip kind of makes you anxious or whatever, I would be so confident and certain in my ability to evolve and grow no matter what comes my way, that I will figure it out as it comes my way, that I will stay relevant and top of my game do you see that mindset and that energy behind?
Yeah. And I would say it's less about me being a man and strategy. It's more about my type A personality.
Well,
right?
Labels limit.
Yeah. What's that?
Labels limit.
Yeah, no, it is what it is around my personality. I am comfortable in organization. I am comfortable in really in a lot of details. And I get massive dopamine rushes from those things. So it's like, I'm the guy still, hey, we're going to clean the garage today. Okay, cool. Let's go out there. Wait a minute. Take a picture before. Okay, go out and crush it and clean the garage. And then I step back and I'm like, yeah, check that shit out. It's clean. It's clean. This is awesome, right? I get the dopamine rush. It's simple. It's mindless. Who cares? Nobody dies if the garage is clean or dirty. But like I get my rush in that. That is an area that I could be limiting myself on because, I'm tied to these rushes from these other things. And I'm with you when you said, if you really want to get into it, all we have is now. That's it.
Here's the only thing I would add to that. I'm equally organized and I love strategy and whatever, because I need clarity and I need structure.
Yeah.
And I leave room for like it being better than I could have planned or expected.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So what I write, like whenever I'm focusing on the next big thing, I write it out and I always asterisk. I have one right here on my desk. I always asterisk this or something even better. So
that's good wisdom right there.
Yeah,
that's good. You got to leave space.
Yeah,
I like that. That resonates with me. You got to leave space for the creative side. These guitars on my wall didn't get there because I just like guitar. Like I told you before I started off in the music business, I was a songwriter, and you start the day with an idea of a song and you end the day with completely something different because that process is allowed to take its natural course.
Yeah.
And if you try to jam the song into a box, it's the worst song in the universe. You've got to let it go. So I think there's a lesson in the songwriting that you've exposed for me here that can apply really to everything. You got to give space for the evolution of things that you might not expect or that may come, or the opportunities that may persist. So, or exist, I should say.
Can I tie this up? Are you familiar with the Hermetic principles?
I'm not.
So there's a book called The Kabbalion.
Okay.
Ancient wisdom, but the 7 Hermetic principles, the one that what we really just talked about is the idea of gender. Now, this is not biological male, female, but it talks about think about yin and yang. You're familiar with that, right?
Of course, yeah.
So yin and yang is the balance of masculine and feminine energies. And you have masculine and feminine, I have masculine and feminine.
Yep.
When it comes to business, we need structure and systems, masculine energy, and the feminine flow and essence and creativity. You need both, because think about it. And this is what happens for most of us in Western. We're so masculine energy driven, hustle, grind, which leads to burnout.
Yeah.
And if you're too much in your feminine flow and ease, it leads to boredom or being stagnant. So it's a dance. And that's all I would bring full circle, is understanding the plays of the energies, needing structure and being open to flow and creativity. You need both.
Mm-hmm. Tell me more about this book.
Oh, The Kabbalion. We could do a whole podcast just on that. But the Kabbalion, if you really think about it, it talks about these 7 Hermetic principles. And these 7 Hermetic principles, they're really more like guidelines and universal laws to understanding all the energetics behind our human experience. So, for example, I'll bring in Nikola Tesla's infamous quote. If you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're really limiting yourself here on the 3D strategy and hustle and grind and time being linear, which is not. So understanding the play of these 7 Hermetic principles really expands your mind to learn how to work with them rather than against them. Anytime you're struggling and efforting, it means you have an internal block.
What type of internal block? Energy?
Well, most of the time it's resistance. So for example, your conscious mind, 5% is where your dreams, wishes, goals are. So 5% of you might be clear on that. However, if it's going against 95% autopilot running the show, your subconscious. So easy example, money.
Yeah.
You might want and desire financial freedom and financial abundance. But if your belief system is, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, money's hard to come by, rich people are greedy. If you have a disconnect, it's called incoherence. If you have a disconnect in your conscious and subconscious, you can struggle and effort all you want, but you'll self-sabotage anytime it comes your way.
All day, every day.
Yeah.
Yep, all day, every day. Fortunately for me, and most of the people sort of I'm attracted to, they're never victims. And they believe that they can be the next billionaire or make the next thing. I've attracted a lot of people like that in my life. Yeah. Some have done very well. Some are still out there grinding and doing their thing and finding their claim. But somebody said to me once 2 things that really I was fortunate to have received 3 pieces of wisdom. One from a very famous record producer, a guy named Roy Thomas Baker, who produced all the giant Queen hits. And when I was 19, I said to him, Roy, what's it like being rich? I was young and asked the question of a guy who was the first millionaire I was in proximity to. And in his British accent, he said to me, oh dear, it's not all that. It just gives you enough time to worry about everything else. Right. And so that was number 1. Number 2 was I got some advice from a former CFO that I worked with who said, My mother always used to tell me, if you have a problem that you can solve with money, you don't have a problem. Right. And if you really, I know it sounds like the speech of somebody with a lot of money, but if you really break that down, all the money in the world couldn't cure Steve Jobs' cancer. Right. So it's not like he had a problem he couldn't solve with money. So there's the example. And lastly I got some wisdom from a guy who was in business with his dad. They were in the commercial real estate space, and they were always hustling, trying to put on the next project and do the next thing. And when he graduated college and jumped into the business, his dad was like, oh, we're going to build a commercial space. We can do X, Y, Z. And his son would look at the books and say, Dad, we don't have enough money to do that. He's like, oh, we just need to go raise some more money. Like we need to go earn it. And we just need to do something to get to that number. So his thing was, he was never limited by what the bank account and the finances said. He was only limited by his belief to go get what he needed to do it.
Right.
And so those were 3 little key pieces of wisdom that I was fortunate enough to pick up. And some of those you have to remind yourself of. Like, you said, do the reps.
Yeah.
This stuff isn't a cure. The mindset piece is something that you got to practice and you got to exercise, and you can digress. You can find yourself potentially feeling sorry for yourself at a moment of weakness, but your ability to auto and self-correct in those times and sort of get your wheels back on the track, I think, is what makes the difference.
100%. I mean, I'm human. I have off days and off moments, but I can jump back. And that's the thing, like, experience your emotions. Your emotions are meant to be experienced, but not meant to be wallowed in.
Mm-hmm.
There is gosh, I don't know her name. There's a woman out there that has done studies around this, and our emotions only have a 90-second lifespan.
Yeah.
If you understand that, so the only reason they perpetuate is the stories we're telling and what we're focused on. So if you keep talking about and focused on the suck or the lack or what's not working, you're only going to get more of it. And what you shared about that money piece and that money story, your current results in life, the dollar in your bank account, your health, are only echoes of your past thinking, feeling, and actions. It's echoes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't like your current results, you have to start changing something you do daily.
The inputs, right?
Yeah,
You've got to
it's
change the
not
inputs.
rocket science, but most people aren't doing it.
It's true. Hey, do you run across people that will have either been diagnosed or say things like, I probably would have been diagnosed with ADHD, but, this is what stops my thinking. Have you come across any of that in the executive world?
No, but even that, as I said earlier, labels limit.
Yeah. It's a tough one for me because, and I've got a couple of friends that, and, I've got a really good friend who was in my wedding, years and years ago, and is a victim of folks and telling him about his ADHD is completely limiting him. Then again, I have a colleague who's a president of a company crushing it, who also knows he's got ADHD, but he has all these tools and strategies around succeeding through it. So I try to uplift my other friend who sees it as negative and limiting. But he believes that he's got this medical condition. And I got to be careful here because I know there's a medical condition and I know it's diagnosed, but there is a tough hurdle from, I believe I'm positive and life is good and it's great. And I'm going to readjust my beliefs and I'm going to get on the track. Not everybody's wired that way. Some people are just happy being exactly who and where they are, despite their complaining, powerless to get out of it.
Yeah.
Can't change the neuron path in their brain to get out, despite the coaching. I've seen people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with coaches to not change behavior. Have you experienced that? And what do you think the cause of that is?
I mean, I've seen it, especially like, let's say, for example, in the personal development world, people chasing that next high. They keep chasing, they keep attending, but they're not implementing and integrating and applying what they learn. Mm-hmm. So from that note, it is a choice. And there's a term out there, generational trauma. Mm-hmm. Generational trauma can also be lack of wealth and abundance. That is a money mindset. Did you know, as an example, when it comes to money, that people who win multi-million-dollar jackpots blow it all within 3 to 5 years because
Yep.
it's 100% an identity piece. You have to understand your internal thermostat. And if they had an identity around $100,000 and they came into that much money, unconsciously they sabotaged all of it to bring it to the known. So the key is to raise your thermostat, to raise the known, to change your identity. But you are right. Some people don't want change. And you may not know, but like stress is addictive. People become addicted to
Yeah, I've seen
stress.
it.
They become addicted to drama. They're addicted to problems.
What
So
is it about that you think that becomes addictive?
the emotions release and all of the science and the chemistry going on in your body, they literally are addictive. You get addicted off of that rush and that high of drama. Right? And
Yeah.
so you just have to, it truly comes down to making a decision and a choice. You don't want this anymore.
So it's like a sugar high. You know the sugar is bad for you, but your body starts craving that response and you go eat a bunch of chuckles.
Yes, and
And so,
I heard this before as an actually it was a Tony Robbins story. But he says that women, what's his acronym? Shoot, I'm forgetting the acronym. But he says women need attention. Oh yeah, here it is. AFT, all the effing time.
okay.
And women, if we're not getting the attention we want, we might start a conflict just because, well, or at least we're getting connection. It's not healthy.
Interesting.
So you have to learn to like turn that into something empowering rather than disempowering. It's a lot of self-awareness. That's all this whole entire game is. Self-awareness, self-mastery. The only limits you have are self-imposed.
Yeah. And, back to the ADHD topic, like I'm certainly not here to discredit and discount people's conditions and what the medical community is going around that. That is an extra challenge cause I have a friend and I tell him, hey man, you got to change your mindset. You got to focus on, the outcomes you want. Meaning, if you got to tell yourself a better story.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, you don't understand my ADHD, my ADHD, my ADHD. And I've gotten to a point, we've known each other for 40 years. I hang up on him. Like I tough love the shit out of him. And then he calls me back as like, you're an idiot. You hung up. I'm like, yeah, Ray. Like I'm like, when you're not a victim, call me back. Oop, I said his name. It's okay. I love him. He's great. But, hey, when you're not a victim, call me back.
But think, you just shared. So that guy has 40 years of impressing on a subconscious. And really, if we got to the root cause, he thinks he's broken, right? He thinks there's something wrong with him. And so he blames it on the ADHD.
Mm.
What
Well,
if
to his defense, the poor guy is broken. He got struck with rheumatoid arthritis at 9 years old and has got like one vertebrae in his spine that moves, and he's been handicapped for a long time. But I will tell you, never met a more, really in some aspects, more of a mentally tough guy around all of his adversities. And we kid, he's amazing, but I'm with you. I understand. Ray is an interesting use case and a great guy. I mean, this is a guy who's been missed death 3 or 4 times. And when he comes out of it, he's telling a joke. I mean, but he's also the guy who wants to lean in on, I can't do it because of this, or I can't do it because of that. And so, he's a work in progress. We're trying to help him along. I want to pivot to something that, I'm hearing you talk. I'm listening to sort of your paths, and I'm like, I'm digging in. I'm nodding my head going, yes, right. I'm just like, I'm really loving it because a lot of it is confirmation bias. A lot of it is a new perspective on things that maybe I was trying to break out and identify, and you've done some cool things. How does that work for you in relationships? Like when you're attracted to somebody, whether it be a date or a potential significant other, are you looking for somebody that has all of those exact characteristics, or do you find yourself with the opposite?
Oh gosh, what a loaded topic.
It's a great topic, Heather. Come on,
So
it's great.
I love talking love and relationships. I really do.
Okay.
And a lot of my clients have come to me for the relational piece because they're very successful in business and finances, but not that piece. So I love
Okay.
relationships. I've done a lot of self-awareness around it. However, my 20s, my list was very long, what I was looking for, right? Some of it surface level, whatever. And now my list
Okay.
is very, it's cut and dry. I'm very clear on my non-negotiables. So like, I don't have a specific, and I don't want someone just like me. I want someone to challenge me and they have their own curiosity and their own whatever. But here's the non-negotiables. He has to have a growth mindset
Yeah.
because I don't do mediocrity and I don't do status quo. He has to have a growth mindset. He has to be athletic because I have a very active life. I want someone doing those things with me. Emotionally intelligent
Mm-hmm.
because so many people are very emotionally reactive, easily
Yeah.
triggered. We've been taught to suppress. And no, you have to be emotionally intelligent, growth mindset, athletic. That's I don't think I'm asking for a lot there. But those three are my non-negotiables. I don't even look twice if I can, and you can tell pretty quickly if somebody has those or not.
So if you met somebody who had a growth mindset, they were emotionally intelligent,
Yeah.
and they enjoyed the outdoors and the athleticism that you enjoy, you think that would be a connection, a love match potentially, right?
It's a strong foundation.
Be a strong foundation. So let me share an experience with you. Met my wife in my 20s, my absolute soulmate, greatest woman on the planet. And when I was 31, maybe, I discovered Personal Power, Tony Robbins. I had a buddy who was listening. They were on cassettes. Okay, I'm old. So and he's like, dude, you got to listen to this stuff. Unbelievable. I'm on fire. I'm going to do it again. So cassettes come up my way. I throw them in the Walkman. I start listening to this stuff and I am becoming on fire. I got my journal out. I'm doing this stuff and I go through it. I can't remember if it was 30, 60 or 90 days. Might have been the 90-day Personal Power. I come through it. I got my massive action plan. I got shit checked off. I've already got stuff accomplished. Like I'm Tarzan. I'm Hercules. I'm Thor. I'm all of these guys in one. And I say to my relatively new wife at the time, I go, you got to understand what I've been through. I've been through this metamorphosis. I've seen the results that I can get. And I could only think that if we did this together, that like we're going to take off to Mars. It's not what she heard, Heather.
Oh.
It's not what she heard. Okay. What she heard was, and I didn't realize this for maybe 10 years. It took me a long time to figure this out because she'd be like, nah, it's good. My wife had her thing. She worked. We started a family. She is an amazing mother, amazing wife, amazing around the house and all of the things that she sort of identified. Whereas like Vic's got to do his things. I'm going to do my things. And together we do these other things, right? She put a circle around the shit that she claimed as hers. Okay. Which was great. For 10 years, I'd be like, we got to come on. You got to do this, or we're going to go to a Robbins seminar. Like resist. And then one day I forget exactly where I was, but it was in a moment of quiet. And I reserve my mornings for this, the quiet where my mind gets to think creatively and I'm not grinding out a list or doing something. I went, holy shit. I think she's not good enough. That's not my intention. That's not what I'm telling her. I have to own I have to own the interpretation as much as I own the message. Because a lot of times people will say something like, hey, Heather, nice pink top. It matches your microphone, right? And you'd be like, oh, is he making fun of my shirt and my microphone? No, I'm actually complimenting you, right? Yeah. So, but I would have to clarify or say whatever. But a lot of times when you give somebody a message, and if it's not received the way you intend it, you owe it to the conversation to see it to a better place. Yeah. And I finally came to her 10 years later. I said, hey, all these years I've been trying to get you to read the same books, do the same things, do these programs, do all this, self-help and self-improvement and all this growth. Did you ever, for a minute, think that I thought that maybe, you were lacking in these areas? She goes, yeah, I thought you were criticizing me. And I took it for what it was. And I just let her be her. I let her be her. And, some might have thought that that was a moment for me to retreat. But I realized at that moment, as you pointed out, the yin and the yang, I realized that together we had that. Like we had that yin and that yang. So I just wonder if you found somebody who read the same stuff you did, was interested in the same stuff, and wanted to push, grow. Would you be missing an anchor that might be necessary at times to keep the boat in the right place?
So I don't. Yeah, to answer your question, and look, so we're living two different kind of relationships, right? And I don't think there's a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be different. And I don't need a guy who's reading the same books. And if you're not into Dr. Joe Dispenza and you don't want to go to a meditation retreat and learn about the neuroscience, that's fine. Because you might
do you do that, by the way? You're a Dr. Joe fan? My wife's best friend, Nicole, is a Dr. Joe guy. And she's been turning me on some of his stuff.
Oh my gosh, Dispenza will take you next level. So he doesn't have to be all in on everything I do, because he might be really into, a mastermind and will bring, but I need to be able to nerd out and share what I learn and my passions and whatever. I want to be able to talk with him about that, because in my last relationship, I won't go into too many details, but I learned a lot about it. Let it out.
Go. We're on podcast.
Yeah.
Let her rip, Heather. Let her rip.
I learned a lot about myself in that relationship, and somebody can preach that they're open to it and want to do that. But if they don't if they're not interested in going to the gym and their mental, emotional, physical fitness, I'm not going to push that onto you. I don't want a project. I want a partner.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I only ask these questions because I often wondered if my wife were more like me, would we have killed each other by now? But my wife has a great level of interest in the topics and the things that I'm interested in. And I'm interested in the things she's interested in, is where we come together on this stuff. But it doesn't mean she has to do everything I do. She'll always say to me, you're so type A. And I say, I'm not type A. I'm goal oriented. But if you really read the books and you go, yeah, all right, that's how I'm wired. It's fine. It's good. And I say stuff that every guy from New York might say. Hey, I guess it's worked out okay, right? Yeah, my type A is kind of worked out.
A visual that just came to mind talking about relationships, the idea of a Venn diagram.
Yeah.
And it's two circles connecting at a point. But I think a lot of people lose themselves in relationship rather than two separate identities coming together with some common interest and their own.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to compartmentalize and not lose yourself. And so some of this, I have to go nerd out with my girlfriends or my Dispenza community, and maybe my guy, whatever. So don't rely on your partner for everything.
Yeah. You'd love my wife's friend, Nicole.
I bet.
She was just here in Dallas, went to a Dispenza thing at the Gaylord here in Grapevine.
He's literally in Denver right here this week.
Are you going?
I've already been.
You have? Nice. Yeah, and she's like, oh, you love, so she's been sending me some YouTube clips and stuff like that. She's been such an old friend to both of us. I used to work for her dad, which is how I met my wife.
Wow.
I worked for her dad, and she came into the store one day with Nicole. And when this is a funny story, when she left, I was like, wow, Nicole's friend's pretty hot. I go, I gotta see if I can get her phone number. So I call Bill, Nicole's dad, my boss. And he's like this old school Italian dude. And I call him one night at home. I go, hey, Bill, it's Vic. Hey, what's happening, baby? How you doing? I'm doing great, Bill. Hey, listen, can I have Nicole's phone number? He completely locked up. He was like, oh my God, this guy works for me. He's calling me, asking me for my daughter's number. And he's like, he's stuttering. And I realized at that moment, oh, no, I don't want Nicole's number for Nicole. Like, I want to find out, I want to get Chris. I go, yeah, she came in with that friend Chris today. And I want to find out more about her. Oh, baby, 201. Like, he spit out the number so willingly at that moment. It was like, oh, he's not after my daughter. He's after somebody else. So it was funny. But yeah, Nicole's amazing. We have lots of really great, deep conversations about a lot of things every time we see each other. And I'm going to see her again in a couple of weeks. So I'm sure. And she's been on a couple of retreats. She's got a second place up in Sedona. So she does a lot of meditation things out there, and really is on her spiritual journey. She's just fantastic. But I've not yet really dug into any of the Dr. Joe stuff, and I owe it to her and to myself to pay a little bit more attention just to see what's happening there. Interesting stuff. We covered a lot today. And I want to just go through a little bit of some last minute wisdom from you. First of all, I want to give you and create a self plug if people want to reach out to you and access your resources. And all of these will be in the description section, by the way, of the episode. But what's the best way for them to engage with you?
I would start on my website, heatherhakes.com. I have a free resource. It's called the Life Assessment. That is the best place to get started. We talked a lot about the idea of awareness and creating that clear aim. That will help you do exactly that. So that's the Life Assessment. All my social handles and everything else is also on there.
Great. And what should people expect when they engage with you? How long? Is it a lifelong engagement? Is it weeks, months, years? Like, what does that look like? Because when people go down this journey, I don't think they have a realistic expectation of the work involved and how short or long some of this may be. So what's your best counsel there?
Well, currently I work one-on-one with clients. My initial package is 8 weeks. So it's
Okay.
I call it 60 days to radical change, but it's 8 weeks. And I think what you really have to understand is this human journey, this human experience is a constant evolving and growth. Like there is no finish line until you just don't wake up one day.
Uh-huh.
And so don't, like, if you're out for a quick fix, this is not I'm not going to give you a quick fix. I'm going to give you the tools to literally demolish one way of being and create that new way of being. So if you understand, and look, like I've had a lot of mentors in my life, and I've had mentors for periods, and then at some point you kind of outgrow their information and then you go on to the next. So
Yeah.
it's just a ever evolving journey.
And what happens after the 8 weeks?
Some clients have stayed on, some of these guys, especially really like the accountability. I've had some clients stay on for a year, and that's just called as needed. And some clients got what they wanted after 8 weeks. So, it's very custom. It's wherever you're at. I meet you where you're at.
I love it. I want to switch gears. I want to hear about your athleticism and your sports. And I've seen some pictures of you all muddied and bruised, and I want to know how that happened.
Oh, the last one. Yeah. 4th of July I'm currently training for my greatest endurance feat yet. Which might be getting postponed because there's a huge fire at the Grand Canyon right now.
Oh,
And
really?
that's what it is. It's a 45-mile running adventure through the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
That's what I've been training for. But the photo you saw, I was trail running downhill. I just ate shit. I Supermaned in the day. Like I'm still recovering. That was brutal. But here's what I love most about physical feats. So I was always a runner. I did a marathon. I did half marathons, and then you get bored, right? So it's like, what's that next level? Then I got into triathlons. I'm just not a strong swimmer. And then I turned into trail running, which is next level running. And well, here's what I love about physical feats. It's like really coming up against yourself, because what I've learned training physically and running and doing these adventures, it's like becoming so mentally, emotionally strong. And what I'm able to do there carries over into life and business.
Totally.
Yeah.
I did a podcast with a guy. I'm trying to see when it came out, but his name is Ray Chargaloff. And it came out on March 17th. And Ray is an amazing guy. And the way I was introduced to Ray is a friend of mine was in Vegas and he's staying at the Fontainebleau. And he said, oh yeah, I'm just going to go down to the gym. And there's a guy down there that does like stretching and whatnot. And I'm going to go through a stretch routine with this guy. And so he meets Ray and Ray starts telling him, yeah, I'm like an ultra athlete and I do X, Y, and Z and I do all this great stuff. But Ray, because he's got a great, strong physical presence and same thing you just said, all of these things tie into everything, being able to have the mental adversity to overcome physical feats transcends into everything else he wants to do or translates. So he said, what's the last thing? Like I've done all these strength and conditioning, and he actually calls himself a conditioning and strength coach, not strength and conditioning. And there's a reason there, but he said, I'm not a runner. So the next thing I have to challenge myself with is running. What do you think the first run he signs up for is?
A marathon?
100 miler.
Whoa. Couch
okay.
100.
So the first thing I said to my friend Tony is, you got to get me this guy's information. I love maniacs and I have to interview and talk to this maniac. And he told a great story, Heather, about, he read a few books, he got some information, he started running and he trained. And what he didn't know at the time is that he signed up for this 100-miler in Vegas. He lives in Vegas. That's one of the most world-renowned difficult tracks to run. It's like not an easy 100-miler. It's a difficult one. And the clock, I think the limit was 35 hours and they had to come pick him up in a van at like mile 72 at 35 hours and he didn't make it. And the next day he started his job at the Fontainebleau and he had to walk like 7 miles that day all over the place. And he's fine. He learned a lot. He went back less than 7 months later, did another one and actually finished and did it. So his first race was a 100-miler. He's my David Goggins, by the way. He's, if there's anything I can do to make this guy renowned for his physical feats, he's fantastic. But always, I don't do any ultra athletic stuff. I'm physically active. I'm big into mobility between stretching and massage. I do Thai massage at least 3 times a month because when you talk about, I grew a 1/4 inch at my last physical because of Thai massage. They're like, oh, Mr. Pepe, hey, nice to see you. What? 5'10" and 1/4? What? Wait a minute. You have shoes on? No. Oh, wait a minute. You grew a 1/4 inch. Well, yeah, I just had a Thai massage. So I'm longer. Don't worry. I'll come back in 2 days and I'll be 5'10" again. It'll be fine. But, keeping, elastic, keeping, flexible is a big deal for me. I like weight training. I used to like running. It's something I want to get back into doing. So I've been doing power walking and things and building myself back up in there. So you do these what's this 45-miler through the Grand Canyon going to be like for you?
So it's called Rim to Rim to Rim.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, you start at the South Rim, you go to the North and back. But here's what's going on right now. There's this huge wildfire on the North Rim. They've closed down the whole North Rim. The fire and smoke is in the canyon now. So this is scheduled for the end of September. That's about 2.5 months out. But who knows what the damage will be,
What's the temperature going to be like there at the end of September?
Toasty.
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still especially in the inner canyon, it's pretty much the same weather as Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
I live in Denver, so at least I'm training at elevation. And
yeah.
Do I love the heat? No, but you can get through it. 1 foot in front of the other. Worst case, 1 foot in front of the other.
Love it. I lived in Highlands Ranch for 3 years. I don't know if I told you that.
No.
Yeah, I moved out there for a job. The job was in Littleton. Yeah. I spent 3 years out there. We lived in Highlands Ranch. Absolutely loved it. I was an avid motorcycle rider. And, I was a few miles from the foothills.
Yeah.
Saw tons of concerts at Red Rocks. Used to ride up I had friends that lived in Boulder. And so he'd be like, hey, why don't you come up? It's Labor Day. This is a classic story. And so me, a couple of guys, the wives and kids were all going up for a a barbecue at his house in Boulder. And I said, hey, why don't we leave like 60, 90 minutes before the wives, take our bikes, go up into like Black Hawk, right? Go way up, then come down through Nederland and then down and come into Boulder that way. And we'll all meet up. Great. So it's hot. It's 90 something degrees at Labor Day until you get up into the mountains and it's snowing. And the guy behind me is in a tank top. He's absolutely freezing. And we're like, okay, that was but that's the thing about Colorado. I mean, you can drive 15, 20 minutes and you start heading up elevation and the weather's completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. Hey, Heather, I had a ton of fun today and I can't thank you enough for coming on, sharing your perspective, being a coach, yet also vulnerable, which is super appreciated. I'm going to take all of your content and put all the ways to get in touch with you in the description section of this episode. And like I said, you'll get tagged in the things on social and you'll start seeing those things come out. And I hope you have a amazing rest of the week. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.